What's up, y'all? Welcome to Union Minded. I'm your host, Eric, and today I want to talk about the ongoing class war and what our roles in it are as union members. I don't know if you've noticed it, but it seems that there has been a tremendous amount of wealth transferring from the middle class to the very wealthy corporate lords of the United States. I don't know if you noticed that, but it's been happening. It's ongoing. Recently, it was the gas hikes that really pained us all at the pump. Inflation is what they called it. I'd like to call it corporate lord greed, but that's me. That's kind of how I view it. Now, what is our role as union members in this fight? Well, for one, it's to be involved. Okay, that means taking your free time and applying it to help further the cause of the labor movement. The reason for this is because the corporate lords are not taking any time off, and they don't have to spend their time doing it because they have plenty of money to spend to do it. So what do the corporate lords do? They buy off politicians and they buy off the system. They use the system to further enrich themselves by doing this. What does labor do? The only thing labor can do is provide the bodies to fight back. We don't have dollar for dollar an ability to fight back. We just don't. But what we do have is people power, and people power is important. Our role is to be involved and be in this fight. Stay educated, right? These are all our roles. Now, right now, what you have is an energy amongst working people that continues to percolate. You got Chris Smalls leading the Amazon union. And mind you, when they won their union, none of the official unions backed them and got involved. Not until after they won. Many of these unions thought it wasn't worth getting involved because there's no way they were going to win. Why is that a problem? It's a problem because, in my opinion, a lot of these elected representatives in these upper offices of these union organizations have been in that process for too long, and so they've been pacified. Why do I say that? Because for 40 years now, we've seen the pacification of the labor movement, and it started in '81 with the PATCO strike and with Ronald Reagan firing the air traffic controllers. I would contend it started earlier than that with Taft-Hartley, where essentially the government legislated general strikes away. So that's illegal. You cannot strike in solidarity. That's illegal. But just because it's a law doesn't mean it's a just law. All right. And sometimes breaking that law is justice, and it's how you get things changed. The civil rights movement didn't obey the laws that were on the books. They were trying to get things changed, and they boycotted, and they peacefully protested, and they were defiant, and that's how things got changed. So just because something's a law doesn't necessarily mean it's correct. But anyway, in '81, this gut punch to labor, and our numbers are down to 7%. So you have these folks that have come up through this current labor structure that has, in large part, failed to respond to that 1981 gut punch. And I'm going to upset a lot of people by saying that, especially if they come across this video. But I can't help it. It's just the truth. We haven't responded right. If we did, we wouldn't be at 7% union membership, as opposed to at our peak when we were in the mid-30s percentage-wise of all jobs. Now, I say all of this because I was looking through this quarter's edition of In Charge. It's my union's magazine. And I read an article by our president. And I want to kind of just I think all of our elected representatives in every office across labor, I think they're all fine people. They're not bad folks. They got good hearts. My problem is that I think they've been in these positions too long and they misunderstand the moment. And that sounds ridiculous coming from me, because what do I know? I'm just a dumbass electrician. But what I do know is I pay attention to a lot of different goings-ons, the current events, and I read a lot. And I read labor history, and I kind of try to base my opinions on what has already happened and what has worked in the past. And I can tell you that solidarity with the corporate lords is not a great thing to aspire to do. Why do I say that? Well, for too long, like I said, we haven't responded well enough to that 81 Reagan gut punch. But right now, we have the labor movement gaining energy. So it's incumbent on us to get involved in that energy. If you read the objects of the IBEW, you'll know that we're supposed to be fighting for all of these things. But when I read this article, it says, what does labor want? And when I read the article, I get a feeling of dread for my folks, because it feels almost like a prelude to another lukewarm contract. And I'll let you, I'm not going to read the whole article, but I'll illustrate what I mean by that. So we start with the quote, what does labor want? We want more schoolhouses, less jails, more books, less arsenals, more learning, less vice, more leisure and less greed, more justice and less revenge. In fact, more of the opportunities to cultivate our better natures, to make manhood more noble, womanhood more beautiful, and childhood more happy and bright. And in the article I'm reading, here's a quote from the article. What struck me was that in that quote, there is no mention of money. Wait, what? Of course, Tom, of course labor wants money. That's how we live. That is why we work. I know. Just hear me out. We earn our living building America. Our benefits are negotiated based upon hourly work. But that is just a trade. We trade our skills, knowledge, and time for the only thing corporations have, money. But why do we work? Is it just for money? Of course not. We work for the things that the money we earn can provide. A home and family, security and opportunity for us and our children, and time to enjoy this short ride on planet Earth. But I would contend that the reason you work is for the money. Nobody's going to work outside of the fact that they're being paid to go to work, unless they're opening up their own business and they're doing it for the love of the game. Everybody works for an income. So I think as my perspective as a labor person, my perspective is, of course, we want more money. Absolutely, because it's the money that allows us the freedom to be able to do those other things. Now it says, now go back and read that quote. We want more schoolhouses and less jails. As electricians, we build both schools and jails, but which one will improve the future of our great nation? Now, I would say that we should not be involved in building jails. Understand something. The corporate lords use the state in order to union bust and to jail union activists and union leaders and labor activists and just civil rights activists and any type of working people from mobilizing and trying to better their lives collectively. It's the police that are used to break up protests. It's the jails that are used when those police are beating protesters to lock them up. It's like a whole system that's in place to hurt us. So I don't think we should be involved in building jails. But it says, as electricians, we build them both. I think he's leaning towards we should build more schools for our, as because it says, but which one will improve the future of our great nation? And I agree, we should build more schools, but we should also stop building jails or stop helping. Let the other non-union factors build those jails. We shouldn't be involved. More books and less arsenals. And then here you have, and this is again, I don't fault anybody in office, because right now it seems like there's this I should ride the middle of the road approach where both sides are right, and they should ride the middle of the approach, or the middle. But I always say it's not left and right, because those issues, the left and right social issues, it's really an economic mobility issue. It's an up and down issue, not a left and right. But here we have, listen to this and you'll see what I'm talking about. Our country is the single most powerful nation in the world when it comes to military strength. Why? Because we spend 11 times more than the next 10 countries combined. We outspend the next 10 countries combined on our military expenses, close to the tune of $800 billion a year and plus, more than that. Would we not be better served by reallocating that money to public works, rebuilding our infrastructure, public education, public health? So to hear, our country is the single most powerful nation in military strength. Our brave servicemen and women stand ready to defend our shores and our influence anywhere at any time, and they have my undying respect and thanks. Yeah, the servicemen and the women, absolutely, they get our undying respect and thanks. But the military-industrial complex is not a friend to what we do, and it's not a friend to working people. In fact, wars only hurt working people in other countries. The rich folks never get hurt. So we got to stop with this whole rah-rah military. All right? Then it says we need a strong military and a well-educated population. I'd say if we just spent the same as the next country up, we'll have a plenty strong military, and we could reallocate all that funds to public works. Then we have another, I'm going to continue that little section. Books provide everyone the opportunity to broaden their minds, and libraries and places of thought give each of us the ability to discern what is right and in our best interest, because we can understand the rhetoric and vitriol that comes from extremists on both sides. Here we go again. Extremists on both sides. From a Labor president. I don't even know what to say about that, because now let's just look at the political spectrum. What are the extremes? I would say the extreme right, it's really not, again, it's not left and right. You have a corporate lord bought off section of our political government, and it comprises about 75% of government, maybe higher, maybe 80%. But basically it's all of the politicians that take donations from these corporate lords, the Walmarts, the big pharma, the big oil, the big industry execs, right? The ones that take the money from them, those are the ones that are beholden to those corporate lords. So the entirety of the Republican Party is beholden to the corporate lords. And the majority of the Democratic Party also is beholden to the corporate lords. They pay us lip service, and then they are beholden to corporate lords. Now, the best thing that Biden did was the NLRB appointments, because the NLRB has been fair, has been very fair up to this point, and we hope that that continues. But if you look at what the centrists and the corporate lord funded political establishment has done, they tanked Build Back Better, which would have been a ton of help for working people. They didn't pass the bill that Labor's been fighting for. The name of it slips my mind at the moment. But they're not raising wages. They didn't raise the minimum wage. They didn't cancel student debt. They didn't do any of the things that would have helped working people. But we're sitting here talking about extremists on both sides. Well, what does the extreme on the other side want? Universal health care, universal college, less military spending, more social programs to help struggling Americans. At a time when income inequality is at its largest point since the Great Depression and beyond, I don't see how anyone can credibly say that the extremists on both sides and equate them as if it's the same thing. So to sit here and say that books provide everyone the opportunity to broaden their minds, that's true. Libraries and places of thought give each of us the ability to discern what is right and in our best interest, sure. But then to follow that up, because we can understand the rhetoric and vitriol that comes from extremists on both sides, man, y'all point me to the vitriol and extreme language that's coming from the left-hand side of the political aisle, and then point me to the extreme language and vitriol that's coming from the right-wing side of the aisle. And then you tell me if they're the same, if they're equal. Then we go to more learning and less vice. Education, learning, gives everyone more opportunity. Learning gives us a voice that will be listened to and the ability to develop and obtain our goals, whatever those goals may be. More money, yep, learning can help provide that. More free time, absolutely. An earlier retirement, without a doubt. Notice that those things that we should be fighting for as a labor union, as a labor movement, it reads as if we're putting that onto the individual. Pick yourself up by the bootstraps and do better. This is the best we can do. That's why I said it filled me with a sense of dread, like, uh-oh, here comes let me start getting it out there, not to expect more money and to do better on your own. And it talks about vice, and sure, vice is bad. But then at the end it says, more leisure and less greed. Any one of you who has graced me with your presence in a classroom has heard the following from me. Most of all, what the unions have done is give us time away from the grindstone, time to lift our heads away from work, to see what is going on in the world and become involved. Then he takes credit for that quote, right? So you got more time in the world, more time so that you can see what's going on in the world and become involved. And then he follows it up with, leisure time can be spent however you want. Mind you, no mention of the greed. More leisure and less greed. I would say less corporate greed would be a great thing. Man, if they weren't so greedy, we wouldn't have to fight so hard. If only they were just decent folks, we could have a decent agreement and understanding of where we are. But these corporate lords are not decent, and they're very greedy, and all they want is money, 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 money. Take, 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 take. So to not mention greed, I think, was kind of a slip. But the two conflicting points regarding leisure. You'll have more leisure because of being in a union, which would allow you to know what's going on in the world and to get involved. But then to follow that up to say, oh, but the leisure, you could do whatever you want with it. I don't know, man. You're a union member. Some of your leisure belongs to the union, belongs to the cause, because it's the cause that allowed you that leisure, that fought so hard for so long to allow you that leisure and that freedom. And I think it's important that every single member get involved and get in the fight, whether that's canvassing, whether that's Brotherhood Nights and talking to each other at Brotherhood Nights to further the dialogue, whether that's getting involved with the poker run or the motorcycle club or the softball team or the bowling league. But getting involved is how you build a stronger union, and building a stronger union is how you build a stronger labor movement, and building a stronger labor movement is how you repair the grotesque income inequality that we're experiencing as Americans in this country. I felt the need to make this video, not to attack anybody, because like I said, I don't have a problem with anyone. I think everybody has their heart in the right place. I just wanted to give you my view on how that messaging can hurt, because what it does is it equates two factions that are nothing alike and are fighting diametrically opposed to each other. And it also places responsibility on the individual for their own lives improvement, when in fact we are a union and we collectively bargain for an improved state of citizenship, which is kind of what we're all about. Anyway, my name's Eric, you're watching Union Minded, and remember, the fight is not left and right. Let's not get caught up in that nonsense. It's up and down. It has always been up and down. Our earlier union brothers back in the day that were in the fight and dying on the front lines knew that, and we need to do well to remember that. And also, each one teach one. Get out there and reach one. Peace.